All right, good morning, everyone. We'll get started here. This is the routine weekly briefing for today, April 10th, through next Wednesday, April 16th. Meteorologist Andrew Kren here for the Weather Service in Raleigh. All right, let's take a look at the weather pattern for the upcoming week. So we have an upper level system that is going to be starting to approach the area this evening and kind of be over us at least through Saturday. And with that, it's going to bring increased chances for showers and isolated scattered storms. The greatest rain chances will be later tonight and during the day tomorrow and the early evening tomorrow. We could still see some wraparound moisture on Saturday, but we should be much drier as we head into the weekend. With the trough, we have a couple different hazards to speak of. We've got a marginal risk of both severe and excessive rain for the area on Friday. Largely expecting severe hail and strong gusts to be the two main hazards for the storms tomorrow. We do have a low end wind threat for this evening, which I'll talk about, but it is definitely not as mentionable as what we have tomorrow. Temperature wise, largely below normal through Sunday. We are going to warm up to above average early next week, Monday and Tuesday, as we get into the 70s and low 80s. And that'll be ahead of another cold front that arrives on Tuesday next week. And that'll bring our next chance for some precipitation, along with temperatures that will eventually fall back below normal in the 60s by next Wednesday. Let's look at our accumulated precipitation for the next 5 days, and largely going to be front loaded to today and on Friday. The next couple days, we could see anywhere from a ½ inch to an inch, perhaps an inch and a quarter across northeastern sections of the forecast area and along the Virginia border. So a nice good soaker for the next 24, 48 hours. And then just some lingering stuff around on Saturday, but really most of it comes Friday and tonight. And then we are dry Sunday and on Monday. So these first couple days and the first half of the weekend will be probably a little more on the wet side, but improving conditions late in the week and early next week. Severe thunderstorm potential, I did mention there is a isolated severe chance across our very far western counties this evening, primarily touching Forsyth and Davidson counties. That is primarily a low-end wind threat. Doesn't look too concerning for us at this point. It looks like the main time frame for that would probably between 5 o'clock this evening and 10, 11 o'clock tonight. There is definitely going to be a lot of showers, a band of showers and some isolated storms moving across this evening and late tonight and even through the overnight hours. But in terms of the severe potential, they'll probably be somewhat limited compared to tomorrow. Tomorrow, there's a much broader area for a marginal severe risk, level 1 risk. Covers most of our area, primarily US 1 East, but does extend into mainly eastern portions of the triad. And tomorrow, there's a greater chance that we could see some large hail and some locally strong gusts, mainly in the afternoon and the evening hours. So going into that severe threat for tomorrow, on the left is your hail threat, on the right is the wind threat, and they're pretty much the same, roughly in that low end probability category. Mainly to talk about that timing wise, that severe threat will probably be early afternoon into the early evening hours. We are certainly going to have showers and isolated storms around in the morning on Friday, but probably get some redevelopment and perhaps stronger activity once we get in peak heating in the afternoon and the evening hours. Probably looking at probably between about noon and like 7 o'clock would be kind of a rough time frame. We should have a better sense of that timing wise with the afternoon forecast package today, but that's kind of my main consensus right there. The main threat for large hail looks to be primarily across the eastern sandhills and parts of the coastal plain. So for planning purposes, those are the kind of areas we're looking at where they could see the greatest potential for that hail. Rodney, I will, let's see, get to your response at the end of the briefing, and then I'll touch that. We have an excessive rain threat as well for the day tomorrow, although any kind of isolated flash flooding should mainly be confined to urban areas. It doesn't look like a widespread, excessive rainfall threat tomorrow. We talked on Monday, or I guess I talked on Monday, that we did have a decent amount of rain move through. That was forecasted to move through Monday. And with that, we have seen, Greensboro and Raleigh each totaled over an inch and a half of rain. And so that aided to some improvements in the drought update. So much of central North Carolina largely now in the abnormally dry scenario, and a small area of the southern Piedmont right now in a moderate drought. Also across the mountains in the state, they've seen about 4.3 inches of rain earlier in the week. And the lake out there has rose to above 5 feet above its target. So also really good news. So hopefully we can get some additional rain as expected today and tomorrow, and that will hopefully improve things even more next week. Going into the extended, largely expecting a 30 to 40% chance of below normal temperatures, so slightly favored in the below average temperature scenario, and not much of a signal for precipitation. If anything, maybe a slight uptick precipitation chance across our northern counties, but primarily across the Ohio Valley, northern mid-Atlantic, Virginia, and Tennessee. Our experimental outlook, largely what I focused on in the previous slides. We have that severe thunderstorm risk tomorrow with wind and hail, focused on that for tomorrow. We do have some lightning and some isolated storms around today and tonight, and that low end marginal risk this evening across the west. We will take a closer look at that with the afternoon package for tonight's scenario, but right now it looks like it's on the low end potential. And then we have the excessive rain for tomorrow as well as the severe. The outlook is also highlighting some fire weather next Tuesday and Wednesday. We will take a closer look at that this afternoon as well, but certainly it's obviously picking up on some gusty winds and some dry air overhead that could lead to some potential fire concerns. So given that that's pretty far out, we will take a look at that as we get closer. Weather summary: increased chances for showers and storms today into Saturday. Greatest rain chances going to be tonight and tomorrow. With that, those 2 days, we have a marginal risk of severe in the west. Today, probably a better chance area-wide. Tomorrow, as well as an excessive rain outlook on Friday. Severe hail and strong gusts, the main threat for tomorrow's event. Temperatures are going to be largely below normal through Sunday, but warming up over the latter part of the weekend and early next week. And then we have another front arriving towards the middle of next week. That'll bring our next rain chance and eventual back to below normal temperatures in the 60s come next Wednesday.